Hello. Welcome back to STM Narratives. Before we begin, please comment where you are watching from and the time. In a world where the noise of self-interest often drowns out the whispers of compassion, one small act can resonate deeply. When Marcus, a kind-hearted black man, noticed a broke veteran struggling at the grocery store, he didn't hesitate to make a life-changing decision. Little did he know, this seemingly small gesture would not only change the veteran's life but also remind him of the deep, unspoken bond between those who serve their country and those who stand by them. This is the story of how one man's generosity set off a chain of events that would impact more lives than he could have ever imagined. It was a crisp Tuesday morning when Marcus walked into his local grocery store, his mind preoccupied with the busy week ahead. His job at the construction site had been taking longer hours, and his side hustle as a freelance graphic designer was starting to pick up. Life was a balancing act, but he always made sure to stay grounded. His mother had instilled in him the values of humility and kindness, teaching him that no matter how hard life got, there was always room to give. As Marcus strolled through the aisles of the store, he noticed an elderly man standing in front of the register. The man wore a faded, worn-out baseball cap that read veteran. His face was lined with age, but there was a strength to his posture, an unspoken pride that suggested a life filled with stories untold. He was rummaging through his wallet, counting the few crumpled bills inside. Marcus felt a pang in his chest as he observed the scene. The veteran looked troubled, his eyes scanning the cash register total and then darting back to the items in his basket. It was clear that something wasn't adding up. The old man's hands trembled slightly as he fumbled with his wallet, and Marcus could tell that he was on the brink of a difficult decision, whether to pay for what he had or to leave behind some of the items he desperately needed. Marcus stood a few feet away, debating whether or not he should intervene. He had no idea what the veteran's situation was. Maybe he was just having an off day, or maybe he was struggling in ways Marcus couldn't even fathom. But there was something about the man's quiet dignity that stirred a deep sense of empathy in Marcus's heart. The elderly man's face flushed with frustration as the cashier, a young woman in her 20s, waited patiently for him to make his decision. "Is everything okay, sir?" the cashier asked gently, though Marcus could hear the unease in her voice. She wasn't sure whether to press the issue further. The veteran's eyes darted nervously around the store, looking at the few people behind him in line. His shoulders slumped slightly as he muttered, I think I don't have enough." He looked down at the total, just under $35, and then at the handful of coins and bills he had left. It wasn't enough. The tension in the air felt heavy to Marcus. He stepped forward, his heart racing. There were times in life when the right thing to do wasn't just an option. It was a necessity. "Excuse me, sir," Marcus called, approaching the register. The veteran looked up, startled by the voice, and Marcus gave him a warm smile. "I couldn't help but notice you might need a little assistance." The elderly man blinked, taken aback. "Oh, no, it's fine," he stammered. "I'll just put a few things back." Marcus shook his head. "Don't worry about that," he said, pulling out his wallet. He handed the cashier his card with a firm but gentle gesture. "I've got it. Let me take care of this for you." The veteran's eyes widened in disbelief. "You don't have to do that," he protested, his voice thick with emotion. "I've made it this far on my own. I can't accept charity." Marcus's expression softened. "It's not charity," he said quietly. "It's just kindness. Everyone needs a little help sometimes." The veteran's lips trembled slightly, and Marcus could see the conflict in his eyes. He was proud, and there was a certain dignity that came with being a man who had served his country. But there was also weariness, years of struggle, both physical and emotional. As the transaction was processed, the veteran finally allowed himself to relax, though his eyes remained glossy with unshed tears. Marcus could feel the weight of the old man's emotions without him saying a word. He understood that this wasn't just about the groceries. It was about the unexpected gesture of a stranger, reminding him that he mattered, that he wasn't invisible. When the cashier handed the veteran his receipt, Marcus gave him a final nod. "Take care, sir. I hope the rest of your day goes better." The veteran, still in shock, shook Marcus's hand with a firm grip. "Thank you, son," he said quietly, his voice thick with gratitude. You've no idea how much this means to me." As Marcus turned to leave, he felt a sense of fulfillment wash over him. It wasn't about the money. It was the connection, the simple acknowledgement of someone's humanity. The act of kindness had created a bridge between two people from different walks of life, and that was something invaluable. Over the next few days, Marcus found himself thinking about the veteran. It wasn't just the groceries that had stuck with him. It was the man's story, the weight he carried with him each day. Marcus had always been aware of the struggles many veterans faced, but this interaction had humanized it for him in a way he hadn't expected. He couldn't shake the feeling that he needed to do more, to check in on the veteran and see how he was doing. So, the following week, Marcus returned to the store. He didn't know if the man would be there, but he figured it was worth a try. As he entered, he spotted the veteran sitting at the small bench near the entrance. He was reading a newspaper, looking much less frazzled than the last time Marcus had seen him. Marcus walked over and greeted him with a warm smile. "Hey, sir, how's it going today?" The veteran looked up in surprise, but his face softened when he saw Marcus. "Oh, it's you. I wasn't expecting to see you again. I just wanted to check in on you," Marcus said, sitting down beside him. "You've been on my mind since that day at the register." The veteran let out a long sigh. "I don't know what to say, son. You really helped me more than you know. I've been struggling for a while now. It's not just the money, it's everything else. I serve my country, but sometimes it feels like I'm forgotten." Marcus listened, his heart aching for the man. He had heard stories about veterans who were left to fight their battles alone once they returned home, but hearing it firsthand was a sobering experience. The veteran had sacrificed so much for his country, yet he had been left with little support. "I'm sorry to hear that," Marcus said quietly. "You deserve so much more. No one should feel like they're invisible." The veteran's eyes brightened, and for the first time, Marcus saw a flicker of hope in them. "You're a good man, Marcus. I don't know what you're meant to do in this world, but it's clear you have a purpose." Weeks passed, and Marcus and the veteran, whose name was Frank, began to form an unlikely friendship. They would meet regularly at the grocery store, exchanging stories and laughter. Marcus learned that Frank had served in the military during the Vietnam War, and he shared stories of the comrades he had lost, the battles he had fought, and the struggles of reintegrating into civilian life after so many years. Their bond deepened, and Marcus soon realized that Frank had become a mentor of sorts to him. Though Frank had seen the darker sides of life, his spirit remained unbroken. He had a wisdom that only came from lived experience. One day, as they sat together on the bench, Marcus had an idea. "How about we start a fundraiser for veterans?" he suggested. "We can use the platform. I have to get some support for those who need it most." Frank looked at him, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "You'd really do that?" Marcus nodded. "I want to do more. You showed me that it's not just about the money. It's about helping those who can't help themselves." Frank's eyes glistened with unshed tears, but his voice was steady. "You're a good man, Marcus. You've made me believe again that people still care." Marcus's decision to help Frank that day had led to a chain of events that changed both of their lives. Not only did Marcus help Frank with groceries, but he had given him something far more valuable, a sense of worth, of belonging. Their friendship blossomed, and together, they began a new mission: to support veterans who were struggling, just as Frank had been, in a world that often felt divided. Marcus's simple act of kindness had bridged the gap between two men who would have never met under ordinary circumstances. And in doing so, he had changed a life, not just Frank's, but his own as well. Thank you for watching. If you would like to see more stories like these, don't forget to subscribe.